Tibetan amano kokozo je Tibet ne drawa to je to tene mazuka jawan de Dongo tangje je ma to je jawa se je ba ni ba Roa se tangje la ameko to pape tangje de Then to make something no. 소지주로 도인사나 저저바로 다니 나게 소지주로 그러나 버리 버리는 거 말고 소지주로 소지주로나 저저바로 다니 나게 소지주로 다니 뭐라 버리 소지주로 소지주로나 저저바로 다니 나게 소지주로 그러나 버리 버리는 거 말고 단데 같이 내가 저로 오고 저 오시는 이제 넣었어. J'ai también c'est ça, des côtés dans un Théo Tibet, voyez des Baded, Trabi, Tejimo, Mala, Jibali, Contesting, Rodo, Codon, Abeton, Palantin, General, Nimba Tabando, the Tibet, the Cousin, Tiwad, Nidi, Chimo, Devi, Loto, Posu, Somo, Nani, Tomba, Tiwad, Tibato, Tibur, Tibat, Le Karat, Sabot, Gamato. But the party Devi no compete maybe Geshe Tabot maybe Jumbar Chula Yo Chubat or Fonshis Tamar Dujat Navi Devi.
Tashi Deleg, all of you. I hope you're all well. And with this gesture of our the class, let us pray that all the Buddhist Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, particularly His Holiness the Dalai Lama, that they bless all the sentient beings, and that all the dear mother sentient beings, that they fulfill the immediate benefits and the long-term benefits, and that they live without any illnesses. With this in mind, let us recite the Refuge and Bodhicitta verse together. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. I should be Tambi, Zesta, and Germany scholars. That the training no more as alone is the Losalica, Pugi, Arena, Chuton on Chuto to the Gol, Gomdia, she has the Troches, Tikachi. Titi, Jiko, Jikanani, and Kokorasha. Kutu Hayamno, Hondos, no more as she tani. Dandagarani, Dandaga, Tichi, Zambali, Jakokana Meshi, no Zilla, Tindikazu, Triat, and Tino, Tino, Tonasan, Yabachi, Kurija, Tafsarza, 티 야본도 티 동의서 티 야본이 journey 요서 아니 티 다리 게시 선을 jamse도 게시 두지 잔다니까 니가 근데 띠냠도 지나 니 돈이 니지 야매 야부지 용무도 티오 체크도 바이지 로베 첨보 바데 나와 참이 티티 치 오마라 지버 고체 티니 제리로도 보존 사보도나 빨라에 저다예로네 이 노트는 멤버 답은 사베 돈 빨라 친다 유인도 노트는 멤버 답은 오늘라 멤버 답은 도저 지금 답이 보면 이제 대부분 이제 전부 되니 이제 노동 유대지 유대지 노동 부수는 초바 초바 띵이 아니 정말 기와도 기원 저 기와도 기원 저원 제발라 아니 그렇지 지원 사보 정보도 나와도 버터 놓기 제발 나 제주기 버터 계속 제주기 놓기 주비 디비스 아니 녀래 너 고니 봐 멤버 파라 메니 좀 메니 좀去游泳주관 메도 소시 담을 니 다르리다 담을 송기 저 유리的龙스케발라 또 포스 저 멤버로 나 스타트 고티 테니 고티 테니 초도 쿠시 데비 고네 또 받는 제바 출신도 나타나요 유지 주모나 유지 신도 동화도 이시기 유치 뭐뭐도 지네 뭐지 지토라네 매번 세수 때라 따뜻해 유지 심보라 지와라 또 통만바 단주대 걸로네 거동 타지 단주 디스팅조사도 지와도 니제를 투요를 때 근데 우리가 그 투미 좀 요노노
Next is The Soothing Rays of Moonlight, the article on loving kindness and compassion, the foundations for genuine peace and happiness. This article was in fact written many years ago when I was there in Devon Center in USA, and this is written as a meditation manual for the participants there in the center. And after several years, Geshe Damdul he found this article, and he asked if this can be sent to one international journal, and he said there would be a very good the article for that purpose. And he also said that he can translate it, and this is how it came to being. And then after the composition of this, the article on emptiness, Geshe Son Gensen and Geshe Doshtamdu, they asked if this can be combined or this can be put together with the emptiness article. This would be like a combination of the two things, the method and the wisdom together. And this is how it happened. The text reads from page 57. The great Indian Buddhist master Acharya Chandrakriti says in his Madhyamavatara, compassion alone is seen as the seed of a victor is a Buddha's rich harvest, as water that nourishes it, and as the ripened fruit that is the source of long enjoyment. Therefore, at the start, I praise compassion. Thus, concerning the Buddha's rich harvest, like excellent qualities, loving kindness and compassion are like the fresh seeds that are indispensable at the beginning to giving birth to the yet unborn sprout-like initial qualities. In the middle, they are like the nourishing water that is poured repeatedly over the plant-like qualities of the 6 far-reaching practices, 6 perfections, such as generosity, to grow fuller. In the end, they are like the fully ripened fruit, like nectar of teachings of the victor's rich harvest that is ready for the disciples to enjoy for a long time to come. It is in those senses that the author so respectfully offers the praise to loving kindness and compassion at the outset of the text. Likewise, it is fitting for us to make concerted efforts to give birth to loving kindness and compassion with a similar energy of appreciation, conviction, and aspiration as that of the author. From this, what we learn is that all happinesses, the well-beings the world contains, they're all derived from the feeling of love and affection and the feeling of the compassion. So with this in mind, I appeal that all of us put effort to generate these two qualities. Reading from page 58, the second paragraph. Therefore, in this journey of cultivating loving kindness and compassion, it is imperative that we first correctly identify these qualities. Let's deal with these in terms of their nature, classifications, causes giving rise to them, the measure of giving birth to them, supportive reasoning for the possibility of developing them infinitely, modes of cultivation, and the steps of cultivating familiarization with them.
Nirona Yogi, Dagi Jawasiat, Dagi Jawasiat, Gay Lauren Bagam, Donor, Gomorrah, Jabber Jawas, Joe Gunkis, Sabachi Gunke, Niro, Nirona, Suke Tansela Mubayoras, the Dick of Tostu Jendo, the New Icha, Susu Drama, Lama Susu Sunset. Ni chimbo ni jeba do samche tamche pegi leso do den de su chona nyamba wong jo sam semji chabar te tenda wa ni su jamba chimbo shi ja Teo, Chao, Java, Chao, the Gui, Yerong, the Chaba Chiu was the Chaba Chito, Yerong, Nijila, the Tamse, the Demo, turn of Samba Yuju, Jabber Chao, Yamato, Tende Mass, Tendeka Chabar, you say, a Chabar Chis, the phone. That's a talk I like no wrong. Chao, he,你做都是，你做懂，真的懂，来做懂，全都，都把这里前边的爸爸，你前边把你前边的爸爸，前边。前边买个功夫，可你了，这玩讲把到你做到赚到的来说到来到的，你讲把这对你的前边的。
Reading from page 58, last line. As for their nature, great compassion is a deep-felt natural wish for all the sentient beings to be completely free from all shortcomings and faults. Here, there's a discussion as to whether or not great compassion exists in the Shravakas and Predica Buddhas, and oftentimes the scholars or the great masters, they indicate that this great compassion must have the quality or must be tempered by the sense of taking responsibility upon yourself, in order to free all beings from suffering and the causes. So this sense of responsibility, altruism, sense of responsibility, taking the sense of responsibility must complement this compassion. Only then it becomes the Mahayana compassion, whereas compassion per se is existent in the mind of the Shravakas and Predica Buddhists as well. For example, Gelam Rinpa, a great teacher, he in fact engaged in this analysis or inquiry, citing Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary, the clear illumination of the intent, which is a commentary on Lama's Acharya Chadagriti's text. So there he engaged in the analysis or inquiry, saying whether or not the great compassion is within the mind stream of the Shravakas and Predica Buddhas, or it is confined to the minor practitioners. So these analyses are there. Whereas great loving kindness is similarly a deep felt natural wish for all sentient beings to be everlastingly adorned with joy and happiness. And the only difference between these two qualities is that while one aspires for the shortcomings and faults to be done away with, the other aspires for prosperity and well-being to be met with. So this is the only difference between these two, compassion and loving kindness. Compassion wishes that beings be freed from suffering and the cause of suffering, and the loving kindness aspires the beings to be endowed with happiness and all the goodnesses, that too in a lasting way or eternally. Page 59, the second paragraph. As for the different forms they come in, great compassion is presented in three forms: a compassion observing just the sentient beings, a compassion observing their impermanence, and then finally a compassion observing their intrinsically unobservable nature as well. The distinction among them is made on the basis of whether an individual's great compassion is directly informed by an insight into the impermanent nature or the nature of things, or an insight into the absence of inherent existence nature of phenomena, or none of the above two. Now the clarity comes here. An individual's great compassion that is not directly informed by either of the above insights is the first type of great compassion. That is the great compassion observing just the sentient beings. Then the next one, a great compassion, though not directly informed by an insight into the absence of inherent existence of things, but is nonetheless directly informed by an insight into the impermanent nature of things, is the second type of great compassion. That is the great compassion observing impermanence, has transience as its object. And some is a matter of translation, great compassion observing the phenomena. This is the very literal translation, but here is more meaning translation. Then here it says the great compassion observing impermanence. Then the individual's great compassion that is directly informed by an insight into the absence of inherent existence of things is the third type of great compassion. That is great compassion of observing the unobservable, which is the emptiness of true existence, devoid of reference, or the emptiness of true existence. Thus, this distinction can also be understood respectively as follows. The first is an attitude that merely wishes all sentient beings to be free from the dukkha of samsara, dukkha meaning suffering, of samsara, whereas the second is an attitude that wishes sentient beings to also be free from the dukkha that occurs due to the distortion of seeing impermanent things as permanent. The last is an attitude that wishes sentient beings to also be free from the dukkha or suffering that occurs due to the distortion of seeing non-inherently existent things as inherently existing. The same criteria of the classification are applicable to loving kindness.
Da samba ji jitu kara go da ji ni chimo le nya so to jitu mo ma yin ba ko le ji wa ye nya na de na da ji oh ya de na da ji oh 다시 전체 기와 통화 매번 롱기 마음 맞아는 봐 맞게 비서 숨치 수요 매지 대요 체대 마 동 처벌 매번 리비 로 리비 마시 동 떨어 마시서 만남지 제 롱기 롱기 니수지 펜바도 레버 공유지 소쇼지 소소로 말은 니수 가르유나 언어바도 쭉 공유리 소쇼 기초 Somebody, what did you only on the from now? Somebody, Tetemba, Tete, don't finish. Only more Roni, Divi, Tanshi, the never new soul to. Prometted don't say Tusul Kali Kabi Moikas. They Diwala, they told them, Dunga, Told, Letron Tamaran, Chin, Yonkin. Shata yambar dupe chini jang tele yapara jara nyami tetem basi da sere tesu
Page 61, second paragraph. Let's now look at the causes giving birth to them. If you wonder what might be the cause, the main unique causes giving birth to great compassion, it is the recognition of all sentient beings as having been one's mother, father, or benefactors, and one who has shown us the kindness of having benefited us in some ways. Remembrance. Number 2, remembrance of their kindness as mothers, fathers, or benefactors. Number 3, the mind aspiring to repay their kindness. And number 4, cherishing love that sees all sentient beings as pleasing no matter what. Since according to Buddhist worldview, there is no beginning to our births, there is all sentient beings excluding none. There is not a single sentient being that has not been one's mother, similar to the one from this life. When they were our mothers, to the extent they were capable of providing, they always cared for us with all benefits, care, and gave us protection from all harms and dangers, and they themselves experienced so many hardships and sacrificed their own comforts in order to provide us with their care and protection. They even sacrificed their lives for us when we were steeped in sorrow and bereft of joy. They have tried all means available to place us in happiness and free us from sufferings. These reflections naturally lead to the mind aspiring to repay their kindness. Here, this is the point where the more we reflect on how all the sentient beings, while they were your mothers in the past lives, they have sacrificed everything for you. The more you reflect on this, then the following points will become more intense within us. These reflections naturally lead to the mind aspiring to repay their kindness. However, we need to repeatedly familiarize ourselves with these above courses. Page 62, second paragraph. In particular, compassion is said to be generated from the cherishing love, or oftentimes the translators translate as viewing beings in the light of great affection. And that holds all beings dear and precious. That is, one must hold all of our kind mothers, sentient beings, dear and precious, for they have showered us with extreme kindness when we were in sorrowful and wretched conditions. Today, when they are in a similarly wretched and poor condition, it is befitting to repay the kindness, for they are all the ones who have been kind to us. So in this connection, the citations we can take from the Bodhisattva Shantideva's presentation of the method equalizing the exchanging self for others. Continue reading the text. Thus, the above are the modes of thinking that we should train ourselves in and help generate compassion for them. Again, the same approach can be applied in cultivating loving kindness. In bracket, for those who are uncomfortable contemplating life after life, they can ponder on our conditions of dependence and connections with each other across time and space in the present lifetime. So that is the the I think this edition by the translator.
Je sais pas, Stevie, c'est question de donner. D'ailleurs, c'est quand on dit Stevie, tiens, là, votre cas, il dit c'est bon. Stiret, Dalai, le l'eau, le gomit, le j'ai les moutons. J'ai les moutons, quatre, tout, c'est, on est, c'est, on est, maïs, balai, le corps, l'eau, Jumawa, je tenais studio, le dernier j'ai pour les Tindra, subject, Tetarat, John, Javert, Tetar, Jombi, Olo Chuma, Maimba, Olo Chuma, Maimba, Telico John, Maimba, Yimber, Chuma, Maimba, Niyo, Chuma, Maimba. She put the Yenayo, Sabi put it to the Yena, you want the Tonayo. Only la Maimba. You put it, Tinta was Yishi, Titarat, John B. Ani Lu Chima, Tayo Lu Chima, Chima Mayimba, Chuma Mayimba, the good. 주메 명화 탐바 주메 명화 탐바 주고 나 주메 그 명화 탐사는 전해지 고래서 명화 탐바 주고 고랄 르 뭐라 톰비 르슈도 주메 가르 스티요데 그때는 좀 주메 명화 톰비 르 소무 Nyua matonke guru, nyua tonke guru, soyu ora, kunyi di niji something, sound yubi, yabert snow la, tombo niji something. Zoto moro kani taga niji sende niji uma mares moro mases niba niba tiyo niji chembo tabawa toli niji ongo ba melas 다 ongoni pala chenye pa chenye pa ongoni pasena dito chenye pasena dito kiwala na sambati gore ngongo shushu kichi kiwati ni Geshe, dream mogo para wrongi sini jogo ba sonso otani jishimo so dream mogo ba tene cool tene.
Now having explained how this the cherishing love or the wish the loving kindness which embraces all beings, or seeing beings in the light of great compassion or great affection. Having cultivated this, then the next one is the having said as to how to to cultivate this. Next is about the measure of having generated this mind. The what is referred to as the cherishing love of the Yong Chamba, seeing beings in the light of great affection. And now as for the measure, 63 second line, now as to the measure of giving birth to them, in general, when one trains in these attitudes, or let's say the compassion, there is a time when one must resort to mimicking others and generate superficial attitudes, faking them, while one does not have an uncontrived, sincere one. Number one, this is where you just mimic others. You look at somebody else who has been compassionate, and then you try to although you don't feel it, you mimic others. This is one. Number two, then there is a time when one begins to feel them occasionally from the depth of one's heart, and even manages to generate sincere ones. However, one may still fall short of possessing stable experiences of them. In the second case is where through practice you start to feel this, but it's not stable, and you cannot really sustain it on its own. Again, you have to reinforce with the more practice, and that is the second level. Even the second version, where you genuinely feel something, but it's not spontaneously, or it's not a stable experience. That is still on the level of the being contrived. Number three, with continued training this way, one may eventually possess uncontrived or non-superficial, very spontaneous, stable experiences. This is the third one, where the experience becomes very spontaneous and uncontrived, very naturally occurring. This way, one could speak of these three stages of training in these attitudes. Of them, the first one does not even qualify as a mind of compassion. The first one is just you don't feel anything, you just mimic somebody else in terms of the physical gestures, the verbal utterance of the I'm very sorry and so forth, but you don't feel that. This is not qualified as compassion at all. The second is a contrived, superficial mind of great compassion, though not a genuine one. Of course, it is compassion. Number two, where you feel it with effort in effort in your practice and reasoning and so forth. You feel it, but it's not the spontaneous coming. So therefore, it is considered, it is qualified as a contrived form. An actual or fully characterized one arises only at the third stage. This is the stage when it is no longer dependent on any efforts. Rather, it arises naturally and spontaneously. That's how the scriptures explain the process.